It's fucking hard. You pretty well nailed what the name of this thing. You summed it up right there. It's fucking hard. Every day's a grind.
Yeah.
If you're doing
Yeah.
it right, every day's a grind, in my opinion, because you have the wolves are at the door, the competitors, everybody wants to take what you're building. And
Hi there. I'm Trevor Coot, and this is Business is Fucking Hard, the podcast where business owners pull back the curtain and talk about the realities of owning a business. We'll hear their stories, learn some lessons, and have some fun along the way. Thanks for joining us. Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Business is Fucking Hard, the show where we get real about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Trevor Coot, and today I'll be recapping my conversation with Matt Pasut, someone who's learned more from doing business in a basement than most of us have from a classroom. Now Matt's built 2 companies while facing a lot of challenges along the way. In this episode of BFH Highlights, we're going to hear about some of those challenges, the stories, and the lessons learned. First up, one of Matt's key takeaways. There is no roadmap. You need to learn as you go. In this story, we're going to hear about how Matt learned the importance of paying your taxes.
at the time, I think I was about 22, and my whole mindset was, I'm young enough that if I fuck this up, I can start again somewhere else. And why not? We got to take this opportunity and jump in. So I did. Jumped in with 2 feet, really 2 young guys working out of the basement, just trying to figure it out as we went. Learned a lot of the hard lessons, like you have to pay, we're in Ontario here, you have to pay HST. At the time it was GST. And if you don't, they'll actually lock down your bank account, and a pretty little white car shows up at the end of the laneway and gives you some supreme shit. So we learned all those lessons kind of right from the start, and just kind of grew from there. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you learn by doing. When you start hiring employees, it's a whole new ballgame after that. But I absolutely agree that there's no course I don't think you could take that's going to prepare you for everything. Anything kind of pre-made, and I've sat on some boards and some committees and stuff like that kind of help nurture entrepreneurship, but they always miss out on those nuances, like pay your HST on time, because if not, you're going to be in trouble. Like, they don't really cover that.
Nothing like the government locking down your bank account to make you realize you should have researched that a little bit more. The lesson here, entrepreneurship is trial by fire. Expect to make mistakes. Just don't make the same one twice. Now, anyone who started a business knows that partnerships can be tricky. And when Matt's original business partner decided to call it quits, he had to make a choice. Fold or go all in. He went all in.
Our first started there back in the basement. It was with a business partner. We grew it fairly rapidly, making a lot of mistakes along the way, but learning from those mistakes. I forget the timeline now, but we worked together for a few years and realized at one point that the partnership wasn't working, the trajectory wasn't working, so we needed to make a change. My partner exited the company at that point in time. I took it over, and at the time we had 2 employees. I basically sat them both down and said, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep you employed, but we're going to put our head down and start running and see what happens. I changed the name of the company to Country Road Graphics at the time. Super original, because I live on a country road, and I assumed I'm going to be both bringing this thing back home and working out of my basement.
Matt didn't just survive that challenge. He rebranded, leveled up, and kept pushing. One thing we all struggle with is work-life balance, or as Matt likes to call it, work-life integration. Spoiler alert, there's no clocking off at 5 p.m. when you own your own business. Matt's found a way to make it work without completely losing his mind.
I think this kind of lends into this whole work-life balance, which is total bullshit. I've had a couple. It doesn't
Be honest.
Work-life integration. I had somebody tell me one time, that's more like it, is,
sure,
there's a time to work and there's a time to rest. And I think my wife even, before we got married, she knew it's not new. Like, I was an entrepreneur before we got married and after, and my kids have only known me as this. They just, I don't know, they just deal with it. In terms of protecting them or trying to, like, they understand that the business has to take priority a lot of times. Dad's got to go to work today. It's Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is. It's not going to be every Saturday or Sunday. And when we're off. Like, we're going to definitely shut down and try to disconnect as much as humanly possible. But the integration piece of it is, to me, the only way. This whole, clocking off at 5 o'clock and not thinking about work, forget it. Like it's
Yeah.
24/7 even now. And I did the math on this morning because I knew it might come up. I've been in it almost 18 years now, and every day is exactly the same. There's still anxiety attacks. There's still full blown, 24/7 thinking about potential issues or opportunities or anything else that come from that. I don't think it ever goes away. Even some of the most successful people out there are still working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And that's just what it is. I wouldn't want it any other way myself, but
I love how he doesn't sugarcoat it. Instead, he talks about the importance of being present, but also accepting the fact that sometimes business calls and you need to answer. And finally, let's talk about growth. Matt isn't someone who sits still. And when he found himself hitting a wall with CR Creative, he just went out and bought another company, Team Outfitters. Even though he admits he botched the first offer, he stuck with it, and now it's one of his biggest successes.
the big thing that brought me to taking a big leap with Team, that sort of thing, it was about a 3-year conversation, but it was, to be perfectly honest, I felt like I did everything I could with CR Creative. I had a team that was running it. I was at that point where, okay, they're looking after clients. The day-to-day is pretty well covered here. I'm not adding anything to this. I'm just being a nuisance and getting in the way with all my new ideas. I got time on my hands now, so I'm coming up with 1,000 new ideas. And then every time I run to them, well, we don't have the capacity. We don't have the capacity. We don't have the capacity. So I kind of said, all right, well, if this thing's running on its way, maybe I need to think about what's next. We had done a little bit of promotional products and apparel and that sort of thing, and kind of dipped our toes in it a little bit, bought some single head embroidery machines because I had this big brainstorm that we're going to do corporate apparel on a really small scale. Like I want to work with 5 companies and just do their uniforms. So let's bring an embroidery machine in and just do those uniforms. Well, then that turned into 5, turned into 10, turned into 200 piece orders, turned into these big things that we're trying to do in these 2 little machines. I'm like, there's opportunity here. This thing is going gangbusters. Maybe this is my next step. So I put a feeler out there. Anybody know of anything? Mutual connection connected me to the business owner, former business owner here of Team. We had some conversations. We batted around a few ideas. To be honest, the very first offer I made him, I completely botched. I missed a huge component of it and offended the hell out of him and owned it every step of the way. Like after I submitted it, I fucked that one up. Yep, I don't know how we missed that with accountants and lawyers and everybody looking at it. So luckily it wasn't enough for him to walk away from the table, but we talked for a couple of years, I think it took, until he realized he was ready to exit, and we were able to put a deal together. So it was definitely a big swing. It was definitely a big risk. But it was something that I needed something different because I was chomping at the bit, sitting there every day with all this energy to go somewhere and nowhere to drive it. So, and it was an absolute ideal fit after that. So in hindsight, it was exactly what I needed, and it's done everything it wanted to do. I needed it to do to fulfill that need I was after.
Big moves, big risks, big rewards. The lesson here is if you're feeling comfortable, you're probably not growing. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's where the magic happens. All right, that's a wrap for today's recap. Matt's journey is full of valuable lessons, from learning the hard way to pivoting to realizing that work-life balance might just be a little bit of a myth. If you want the full scoop on how Matt built not 1, but 2 successful businesses, head back and listen to the full episode. It's packed with stories and insights. Thanks for tuning into Business is Fucking Hard. Remember, the business journey is hard, but you're not alone. There are great lessons to be learned through our stories. We just need to be willing to share them.